Deputy Lord Lieutenant, honoured guests, head teacher of Bathgate Academy, and crucially, the future pupils of Bathgate Academy. I stand here today as a proud former pupil of this school. Today my role is as chair of the Anchor Psalm Association, vice chair of the Anchor Psalm Association Scotland. Now, a little bit about our charity. Our charity was formed in 2016. Our secretary, Tommy Davison, who is a former soldier himself, visited along with others. I was there, not on the same trip as him, but I was over there. We visited the battlefields of the Somme. The Battle of the Somme started on the 2nd of July 1916. More than 30,000 British casualties happened on the first day of the Battle of the Somme. 30,000 people, can you imagine that? It's a scale of human tragedy that thankfully has never been repeated in one day of conflict. That's where we were formed. The Somme is a river, the Anchor is a river, and the battle happened sort of between the boundaries of those. So we formed this charity. And what's the purpose of the charity? The charity is to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, to remember those young people, not much older than you, many of them, when you see these fields of white gravestones in France and Belgium, you realise that they were only 19, 20, 21 years of age. They went across there to fight for the freedoms that we have now, and these people never came back. I'm very fortunate, as I say, in many ways to stand here. One way is that my grandfather fought in the Battle of the Somme. His name was Alexander Russell. He was a former pupil of Bathgate Academy. He went over there. He was given one of the earliest battlefield promotions at the age of 21. He was a regimental sergeant major. So I was very proud of him. I never met him. He died in 1959, sadly, so I never got the chance to meet him. But he is one of the driving forces behind why I am so passionate about this. But the Anchor Psalm isn't all about remembering. The Anchor Psalm is about helping various forces, charities that help those who have been involved in conflict. And I'm not speaking just about World War I. Obviously, World War I's over 100 years ago. We're speaking about all subsequent wars and conflicts from World War II, Korean War, right through to the Falklands War, which we're about to commemorate. 1982 it happened, right through. And of course, education, speaking to young people, having projects within schools. That's what the Anchor Psalm is all about. It's about remembrance, it's about education. And we must never forget the sacrifice that was made, but at the same time, we must always look forward and educate. So today we're here to commemorate 70 years on the throne for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Isn't that an incredible thing? 70 years. Can you imagine what's happened in that time? When Her Majesty came to the throne, Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister. Winston Churchill had served during World War I. He had been a cabinet minister during World War I. A few things went wrong, the Gallipoli campaign. He went back and actually enlisted at the age of 40, fought in the trenches, often not spoken about Churchill. And Churchill was, of course, our wartime Prime Minister during World War II, and then became back to be Prime Minister again in 1950 at the age of 80. So he was Churchill. Churchill was the Queen's first Prime Minister. You think of Churchill being this incredible figure from way back in the past. Well, Her Majesty the Queen had Churchill as her first Prime Minister, and of course right through all the Prime Ministers to Prime Minister Johnson now. Now, of course, as was alluded, Her Majesty the Queen visited Bathgate in 1955, along with His Great Royal Highness Prince Philip, and they came to Kirkton Park, where the new bandstand is there. There's a small, you'd hardly call it a bandstand, a little stage down below the steep slope. There used to be a beautiful bandstand there. Sadly, it was vandalised and eventually was demolished. But she came here in 1955 and gave a rousing speech. It was part of her tour of the country after the coronation in 1953. She ascended to the throne 52, coronation 53. So it was great that Her Majesty took time to come here. She visited other towns in West Lothian at that time as well, and eventually went to Queensferry and back through to Holyrood House. She also visited in 1968 and she opened the British Leyland plant, which was only in existence for 25 years. At one point, 6,000 people worked in the British Leyland plant. Hard to imagine. And it's on the site, I don't know if any of you young folks live there, but on the site Wester Inch. That's where it is, that's where it was, British Leyland plant. My own father, he served at the end of World War II. My father, when he came out the army, he actually worked for about approximately 20 years in the British Leyland plant down there. And in 1968, Her Majesty the Queen came back to Bathgate to open C Block there. It was a big, it was a truck plant and a tractor plant. Incredible employer here in Bathgate. Look into, I actually wrote a book about it called Bathgate Once More that I'm trying to get reprinted again, but that's another story. The Queen came in 1968 and I was there, but I can't remember it because you would guess that as old as I am, even then I was probably about this height, so I don't remember it. Thankfully I have seen Her Majesty up close. I've never had the pleasure of meeting Her Majesty, that would be the ultimate honour, but I have seen Her Majesty on a few different occasions, notably when she opened the Falkirk Wheel, which was an incredible feat of engineering in 2000 for the millennium. I saw Her Majesty open that. I saw her reopen the Borders rail line. And more recently, and in my role as a councillor here in Bathgate, I was invited to the opening of the Forth Bridge, the new Forth crossing, and Her Majesty the Queen and Prince Philip were there. And that's the last time, very sadly, that I had the pleasure of seeing His Royal Highness Prince Philip. So, I think everybody, you've probably heard enough from me. This is a wonderful bench. It's going to be here forever. That's the great thing. That bench will be here when all you young people have left and you get your new careers and you move forward in life. This bench will be here. You'll always remember this day when you were part of unveiling this bench and planting the tree. I can take you back to 1973. That seems like ancient history to you young people, but 1973 there was an initiative and it was spearheaded by Her Majesty the Queen, and it was called Plant a Tree in 73. And I planted a tree next to the old Bathgate Academy, which was my primary school, and that tree's still there to this day. It's a cherry tree. I wish it had been an oak tree, it'd have been massive by now, but it's a cherry tree and it's still there. And anybody ever walks past there with me is fed up with me every time. I say, well, I planted that tree, but I'm very proud of that back in 1973. So you're all going to be very proud of that tree, but doubly proud of this platinum bench. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth is service personified. She is dignity personified. God bless you, Her Majesty.